Tough love. Dawn complains, then Glory complains, then we complain.
We open with Buffy telling one of her professors that she's dropping out of school due to Joyce's recent departure, and she hopes to be back next semester.
She also lies and tells him that she likes poetry, which is what his class was about. I can't imagine Buffy reading anything, poetry or otherwise. At the hospital, Ben is informed that he is being fired because he wasn't at his job for 2 weeks, which at least acknowledged some of the comments we've made before. It's good to know that the writers are paying attention to our videos.
And he storms to the locker room where he changes into Glory. And I guess it's good no one was around to hear him ranting to himself or transforming into a totally different person.
We cut back to Glory's lair where she is having a bubble bath and instructing her minions to tell her everything they saw while they were spying on Buffy so that she can figure out who the key actually is.
Which, for the 1000th time, was a good idea a long time ago.
Correct.
Meanwhile, it turns out Dawn hasn't been going to school, which Buffy finds out in a meeting with the principal.
And I wondered what Dawn was doing while she wasn't at school, because we haven't seen that.
She leaves the house, where does she go?
And the principal tells Dawn to wait outside while she talks to Buffy, and the music tells us it's a big deal, but we don't get to hear what she says.
At the magic shop, Anya has come to the realization that she's an American and has embraced her new religion of capitalism.
A system of symbiotic beauty apparently lost on these old people. Look at them. All ogle, no cash. It's not just annoying, it's un-American.
She complains about some unspeaking customers not buying anything, and goes off to talk to them when Buffy and Dawn walk in to join everyone else in sitting around and not doing anything productive.
Buffy pulls Giles aside and talks to him about the stresses of being the parent and authority figure to Dawn. And she shows how she's stepping up and taking a more mature approach by immediately begging Giles to do it instead.
But thankfully, he tells her that she needs to be the one to step up because she's Dawn's family now. And he also tells her that she doesn't listen to what he tells her to do either. When Buffy goes back out to the store, she yells at Dawn for playing around with the gang instead of doing her homework.
Interpreting being an authority figure as being a bitch.
Willow tries to defend Dawn, saying they were demonstrating a geometry problem, but Buffy isn't buying it, surprisingly, and tells Dawn to stop having fun.
And learning, which she was actually doing. She was doing what Buffy told her to do. But because it was fun, it's not really learning. She sounds like a bunch of my teachers in school.
Yes. Willow keeps trying to calm Buffy down, but Buffy keeps repeating how important it is that Dawn finishes her schoolwork. And Willow keeps trying to be cutesy and says maybe Buffy needs to relax, even though that's the plot of about 50% of the episodes of Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
And Buffy keeps falling back to the "you don't understand" excuse over and over again.
Which is true, I don't understand why they keep having the same conversations. And all the while, I was wondering when Glory was going to finally get around to start with the murdering.
But Glory's still hanging out and very satisfied that she now knows who the key is, and they go to get her. And naturally, since they don't state Dawn's name outright, it was clearly going to be the wrong person again.
Willow tells Tara how Buffy was acting with Dawn, but Tara takes Buffy's side while Willow takes Dawn's side.
It upsets Willow, who feels like her opinion isn't valued by anyone.
Because she hasn't lost someone close.
And Tara also drops the "you wouldn't understand" language.
I was hoping their dramatic overreactions wouldn't turn into a subplot, but then the show immediately made it a subplot.
Tara says that the strength of Willow's magic frightens her, which throws Willow off even more, and Tara says Willow is changing so fast.
She's worried about her place in Willow's life going forward. So Willow very maturely ends up storming out, after what doesn't even really seem like an argument, but it was supposed to be.
At the Summers house, Buffy's treating Dawn like a machine, saying she's just trying to give her a normal life, and is constantly telling her how this is real, Dawn, and you need to take everything seriously, Dawn.
And she reveals that what the principal told her was that they'd take Dawn away because Buffy wouldn't be found fit to be her legal guardian if she doesn't do all her work. And right when I was thinking that Buffy should have told Dawn that, Dawn says,
You could have told me that.
And I like how Buffy's response of "I just did" was meant to be compassionate, but it's really hard to not see that as sarcasm.
Correct.
And throughout the entire conversation, the goblins are watching from outside, in broad daylight. And I'm pretty sure they're at the front of the house, so people would be walking or driving by.
Again, really effective protection spells around that house, too. Then we get one of those sad montages we get every few episodes, with Tara sitting on a bench at the park while a fair is going on, and Willow moping in a corner at the magic shop.
Tara's happy when someone holds her hand, and she thinks it's Willow, but it is Glory.
Willow tells Giles about her fight with Tara, and when Giles opens the door to outside, he finds one of Glory's goons. Giles sits him in a chair without tying him up or even searching him for weapons, which was very intelligent, and at first he refuses to talk, but when Giles says, "Let's finally tie him up," and Anya and Willow turn around, there's a cracking sound, and then the gremlin starts talking.
The goblin says Glory is about to take the witch, so they realize that Glory thinks that Tara is the key, and Willow runs out.
At the fair, Glory crushes Tara's hand and tells her that no one can help her because she'll kill them if they try. Tara's hand starts bleeding, but only in some shots.
Glory tastes the blood, which tells her that Tara is not the key, so she demands to know who the key really is.
But Tara refuses to talk, and Willow arrives just in time to see Glory shove her fingers in Tara's head. And I thought the effect looked especially bad in this instance for some reason. Maybe they were running out their budget.
And again, they're in broad daylight and in the middle of a festival of all things. People are passing in front and behind them.
Then Glory disappears, and Willow takes Tara to the hospital.
The doctor says Tara has to stay overnight, and in the morning they can take her home. All the while, Tara is acting like everyone else who has been CGI'd in this show, and Buffy runs in, saying she left Dawn with Spike for safety.
In Spike's crypt, he tells Dawn that he'll take care of her, but she is skeptical seeing the damage left by Glory last episode.
She says she must be something so horrible to cause so much pain for everyone else. And I said, leave your teenage drama and angst in the 90s, please. And someone's going to be like, this episode was from 2001.
That's what I was thinking. Willow decides to go after Glory herself, which Buffy tries to dissuade her of. And for some reason, everyone else stays in the other room when they exit, even though Tara's already gone, so there's no reason for them to still be in there anyway. And Buffy seemingly convinces her to wait until they can do something together, but it turns out Willow hasn't changed her mind.
I loved how, when Willow got to the magic shop to weapon up, she grabbed a book that was literally labeled Darkest Magic.
I could not stop laughing. This was one of those times when I had to pause it because I could not stop laughing.
Meanwhile, Glory is happy that she's closer to the key and says all she has to do is rip through Buffy's friends one by one, which again would have been a great plan from day one. And why isn't she doing that right now?
Suddenly everything starts shaking, and Dark Willow comes evil-deading in.
And she starts to Palpatine Glory.
Pay the price for your lack of vision.
In Spike's crypt, Buffy tells Dawn that none of what's happening is her fault, and says that she talked Willow out of doing something stupid. But Spike points out how unlikely it is that any of these characters would do something intelligent.
Using himself as an example, which I thought was great.
And Buffy decides to go after Willow.
Turns out that Glory is not bothered by any of Willow's magic, which wasn't surprising since most of it looked lame as hell. She made a little snake come out of the carpet to wrap around Glory's ankle. It wasn't even a giant snake.
What are you talking about? That was awesome.
It was a tiny little snake. What was that supposed to do?
And it looked like the electricity was working, but apparently it didn't, because we just cut away and it's just past it for some reason. And when Willow makes a mirror break and flings the shards at Glory, it cuts up her dress, showing that Giles really must have been using a Nerf crossbow in the other episode. And after that, Willow tries magically throwing knives, which I would think you would try before flinging glass at her. But that doesn't work either.
Glory grabs one of the knives and is about to stab Willow when Buffy comes in to the rescue.
They fight a little with some weirdly stiff action.
It's probably tough to fight in that dress.
Yeah, very practical. So she really is like an evil version of Buffy. And then Willow uses a force field to hold Glory back as she and Buffy leave. And I was thinking, there could be a lot more uses for that force field.
Don't steal my wrap-up notes.
Offensive uses, as opposed to defensive uses. But of course we don't see that, because Willow's not very smart, and she's never read Fantastic Four.
Later, Buffy, Willow, and Dawn are sitting with Tara, helping her eat, and Willow is learning to adapt, but it's tough.
At one point, Willow says she's going to take care of Tara,
Even if she never.
and she doesn't finish the thought, which was clearly related to their argument from earlier, but I'm not sure what that was supposed to mean. And again, that argument felt very insubstantial, so I didn't think that really worked.
And they're interrupted by Glory ripping off the front of the room. To which I said, holy crap, a smart move for once to actually do something.
And to which I said, so much for all their alarms and protection spells. And Tara immediately gives away that she sees Dawn as an energy being. Tough love, overall.
It was very typical of Buffy to take a basic concept and completely twist it out of proportion when I have to be Dawn's authority figure turned into I have to treat Dawn like an infant and an idiot and just be a complete bitch about the entire thing. Her dropping, this is serious, and Dawn saying, yeah, I know, and Buffy saying, no, this is serious, to not just Dawn, but to everybody, got really old really fast. And it's not the first time that the show expects everyone else to take things as seriously as Buffy when Buffy decides that they need to. Having Glory go after the wrong person again felt tired. Like someone said, hey, I got this idea. And someone said, great, how many times can we recycle it? Thankfully, we will not have to deal with that yet another time, unless they do some dumb thing where they trick Glory into thinking that someone else is the key. I don't think they would do that, though.
Maybe there was a mirror behind Dawn, and Glory thought Tara was looking into the mirror and seeing Willow. Or seeing somebody across the street, maybe, or something.
Is this the first time Glory actually did something intelligent?
This is the first time anyone in this show has ever done something intelligent.
I was also surprised that her being banned had some actual consequences when he got fired. But now that she is pretty much permanently in control, what does that mean for him? Is he gone completely, or are they going to do a very cliche thing where he shows up at some critical moment during the final battle and tells Buffy how to defeat Glory? That would be lame, by the way. I'm saying that as the lamest thing I can think of. Is that what happens? You've seen the show before.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Man. I hope not. Tara actually being affected in a meaningful way was unexpected, and I hope they stick with that plot thread because it affects the rest of them, not just Tara. Not to mention it gives Willow strong motivation to take action. But I assume that once they beat Glory, all of the CGI people will revert back to the way they were.
I didn't even think about that. That's probably true.
I was amused at the lameness of Willow's magic. But the one spell that seemed really effective was the invisible wall. And she used it twice, and it worked both times. Could they just keep Glory in a box so she can't do anything? Could they just keep the goblins in a box because they're the ones that actually take action?
The goblins themselves are so easy to deal with.
Yeah, Giles took one out.
Yeah, I mean, they've fought them before. Like, just capture them one at a time and put them out of the way.
And Ben stabbed one, and it would have died unless Glory saved it, so just kill them.
And why doesn't Ben do that? I don't know. Still a lot of, just basic logic questions.
Yeah, they kill monsters all the time. We're moving towards the end of the season, so in typical fashion, things are actually starting to happen, which is good. I just wish we didn't have to go through so many filler and nothing episodes to get here. I wonder how much this show would improve if they did a Dragon Ball Z Kai thing where they cut out all the repetitive filler. Are you familiar with what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
I think that would be an interesting experiment if somebody recut this show that way.
I feel like that could legitimately work, potentially.
Yeah, me too. So go do it, somebody.
It'll just be like the first episode and the last episode.
Well, you've got to stick Ted in there too.
Oh, yeah.
Overall, I thought things happened in this episode that were good. So I gave it a B-.
I also gave it a B-. I thought this episode was not terrible, but not great either. Really, I think it's more of a C+ in terms of quality, but I gave it that B- because of Glory and Willow both finally deciding to do something. It was good to have one of the main cast be a victim this time, because I would say Spike doesn't count. And I thought it was good that Willow wasn't able to get to Tara in time due to her personal incompetence. Not that that's good that it was the reason, but that she didn't succeed. And it was good to have Willow aggressively use magic against Glory. Imagine if they had been doing that the whole time. The season probably would have ended 12 episodes ago. And the same with Glory actually taking action herself. However, Willow and Tara's argument didn't make much sense, which is not a surprise, and that scene definitely didn't have the impact it was supposed to. Other than that, Anya was funny as usual, Buffy and Dawn were kind of irritating as usual. I wish Giles was doing more. He's just kind of there at this point.
Yeah, he's not even running the shop. Anya's running the shop.
Yeah, and I liked how the episode ended. It was genuinely surprising, and like you said, we're getting near the end of the season, so it's about time the writers decided that things should happen. It does feel like we're going to be focusing on Glory from here on, And I'm wondering how the Knights of Byzantium are going to tie in, because we heard about them a long time ago, but they haven't done anything other than basically announce their presence, and then a bunch of them got killed.
They're still chanting in the woods.
I guess. I mean, that has to go somewhere. I can't imagine that that's not going to be a major element in some way by the time we get to the end of the season, but it feels like instead of all these filler episodes like you're saying, maybe do one of them focusing on them so we know who they are and we know what's happening. We only have a vague sense at this point, and it feels like they're not really that involved, and that's not exactly satisfying writing.
During the final battle, they're going to show up and fight all the goblins. Like it's something that needs to be done, even though Giles could defeat all the goblins.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if, when they find out that the key is Dawn, that they decide not to try to kill her or whatever, and then team up with Buffy to fight Glory. That's my prediction,
Okay,
but we'll see what happens.
I guess. Thanks for watching.